Train wrecking part 3, and welcome. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning for those that are new to this and fresh to what we're doing. I wanted to build myself a Trainwreck Express. Now, as most of you will know by now, I like to do most of my custom builds in these blank chassis here. This is what we call a JTM 45 sized chassis. And you can buy them in blank, and they are incredibly versatile, and I love them. And I use them for a lot of my custom builds because you can get up to 7 valves, even 8 if you really want to squeeze it, into this size chassis. They're really flexible. You can do a lot with them. They fit in a reasonable sized head cabinet, so you haven't got something that's oversized, and you can do a lot. And what I've been doing is going through the process of showing you guys that you can, using conventional board layouts such as this, you can build many circuits into this size chassis. If you look at things like the original Trainwreck Express, and I'll put a layout on the board on the screen now, you can see that the chassis doesn't follow what you might call your conventional design. So I'm just building them in that way. So we're starting with the Trainwreck, and then we're going to do some others. And all of the chassis layout and board design are put up as a downloadable PDF in the download section of my website, so you can all do this at home if you want. But yeah, this is the first one we're doing, a Trainwreck Express. So this is part 3. So in part 1 we kind of designed it, part 2 we started doing layout work and stuff like that, and we're now on to part 3. So as you can see, I've drilled the chassis, at least on the top. I haven't done the front panel or the rear yet, because I need to make sure that this is all correct. And I woke up in a bit of a cold sweat because I realized that the power transformer that I was going to use for this build, which is your standard Marshall style 50 watt 2-ear EL34 power transformer, is wrong. It's going to be wrong because the Trainwreck Express uses a lower voltage primary than your standard EL34 50 watt amps. Okay, which means I had to get one. I can't use that transformer. I've had to get one made. For those interested, the output transformer, I'm using an old Marshall 50 watt transformer, but we're going to run it deliberately at the wrong impedance to double the reflected impedance onto the output valve. So rather than 3K4, it's going to run 6K8. Really, really cool, right? And so let me explain to you. Once I realised that the power transformer would be wrong, it's got enough juice to power all the valves, to do all those bits and pieces, but here is the modulus datasheet for his Trainwreck power transformer. And as you can see, it's got 2 high voltage secondaries. It's got a 600 volt winding and a 520 volt winding if you want to do switchable stuff, which would be cool. But we need 600 volts. That's the original spec for one of those. And this one is 690. It's a 3450-345, which means the internal voltages in the amp will be far too high, and we're going to end up not being able to compensate for that because it's just too far out of the range. So I spoke to Modulus, and I've had his transformer wound for me. All of his transformers are wound to order, which is really cool. I love that. And as you know, he's been churning out some really cool stuff lately. And he's just bought a second oven for baking transformers so he can increase his production. And this morning, because this is what I've been waiting for to do part 3, the transformer has arrived. And what I'm hoping is that the footprint matches the one that I've already drilled for the wrong transformer. Otherwise, we're going to have to drill more. But this is prototyping. This is working stuff out. It's all part of the course. God, that blade needs replacing. Well, it's well packed. Oh, you beauty. It's exactly the same. Oh, we've locked into that. We've lucked into that. Yeah. Oh. I think it weighs the same as well. Okay, so the Marshall one, the Marshall style one, just under 4.5 kilos, which is £9 14 ounces. And the Modulus one, £9 12 ounces. So they're about the same as well. So I'm not I don't have to change anything. Perfect. All my holes line up perfectly. Haha, good news. Okay, so I can now use this for a different project. I'm sure I'll come up with something for that. I want to build myself maybe I'll use that for a bass amp. Don't know. Right, we'll put those to one side. So that's my transformer set for the Trainwreck Express now. Got all the bits and pieces I need for the front panel. So I've got my on standby off. Got my CTS Dimpleback pot set, which I really like. The only thing was, yeah, we're not going to do the bright switch as a push-pull because it is a 3-position. We are going to have a little toggle switch in there, so I need to mark that on. But that's fine. We'll do all that. Caps have arrived for the board, so I can get those on. You know how it works, 22s, etc, etc. Yeah, so coming on nicely. So we'll be able to, next job for me then will be to get the eyelets into the board, get the board populated, get the board mounts done into the chassis, which probably it'll probably sit roughly there, something like that. Maybe there. Yeah. Can you see? You can see. Something like that. Need to finish deburring some of these holes. Need to do the front and rear panels. And what was the last thing I need to do? What will be the next thing I need to do? Can't remember. But yeah, that's where we are. Trainwrecking Part 3. We're coming along quite nicely. Right, I'm back. For you, it's only been a couple of seconds, but for me, it's actually been 2.5 months since I last did anything on the Trainwreck build. It's a project that I'm doing in my own time, so it doesn't interfere with any paid Rift work. So sometimes things just sit on the shelf and you can't touch stuff until you actually find a little bit of spare time. Now, I did time-lapse me making the board in terms of populating the board and putting all the components in, but I can't find the footage. I don't know where it's gone. I'm really, really sorry, but the board is now done and it's come out quite nicely. It has come out quite nicely indeed. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. These massive 22 microfarad caps just fit, so I just got the sizing right on DIY LC, but the 47s and the 22s, obviously they're going to fit. But yeah, the board's now done. That's what it should look like, and if you're building your own one at home, this is what you should end up with, something like this. So yeah, very happy with that. I've also gone ahead and drilled out the rest of the front panel and the rear. I've done my IEC hole for my IEC socket. It's all there, so that's all ready to go. So now what I can do is I'm now at the point where I can start to populate the chassis. So first job is to remove all the tape from the chassis, give this thing a good wipe down with isopropyl alcohol, then reapply tape to the bits I want to protect that will remain open. So, the sides of the chassis, for example. Obviously, we're going to have a faceplate along the front. You can't actually see what I'm doing there. Sorry, faceplate along the front. We're going to have a faceplate on the rear as well. Now, I am going to have it all the way up here because I'm going to have some of the legal text and logos and stuff there. But up to about here. But then this part here is going to remain open, but the part of the upper panel will slightly cover that, but I don't want that to get scratched, so we're going to retape that up. That's what I'm doing. So then once we've done that, I can start populating. So I want to get all of my grommets in, my board mounts, I need to get my sockets in, my pots and switches, which I've got here, the valve sockets as well, transformers in, and I also need to do the screen dropper, the chassis mounted screen dropper, which you remember is going to mount down here. And we've got some, where is it? I was looking at it earlier. We've got some heat paste, some thermal paste, sorry, that we just put a smidge on there just to help with the heat transfer to the chassis, because obviously these resistors do get quite hot. So we're going to do that. And there was one more thing. Oh, here it is. Found it. There you go. That's the thermal compound that I used. Electrolube. So we're going to get all that done. And then the build proper really starts. So the way I like to build things, and again, we will go through this, is I like to try and do as much chassis wiring as I can from the beginning. We will do all our underboard, overboard and flying leads on this, and then when I've got the chassis to the point where I can't really do much more wiring, then I can lower the board in, make all my final connections and bits and pieces like that. So yeah, I'm going to time lapse this now, going through it all. Do enjoy. Right then, pretty much all done. At least I got it to the point where I want it to be. So we've got both the power or the mains transformer and the output transformer mounted, and you'll notice that because they are in close proximity to the other, they are 90 degrees relative. So one of them is turned 90 degrees, in this case the output transformer, and that's the way I designed it from the beginning. You've got your pots all in along the front there, just the 5 of them at the moment. I've done the on standby off switch as well. I do need to double check the orientation of that, because that does depend whether I'm going to have this as a chassis that sits on the floor of the cabinet or whether we're going to hang it from the ceiling, as is my preference. I've yet to make that design decision, so that will just affect which way around the on standby off switch needs to be. Haven't put anything in along the back yet, but I've got all my sockets in, as you can see. So my 2 output valve sockets with grounding points here for, I'm going to put some 1 ohm cathode resistors in so I can use that to measure bias if I haven't got the compu bias to hand or another tech wants to use those. 3 preamp valve sockets are now in. My board standoffs are in. I've got my safety earth point here, which is separate to everything else. I've got my screen dropper resistor in and heat pasted to the chassis. So this is the point where we can stop this video, because the next part will be initial chassis wiring and bits and pieces like that. But if I behave, get all this, can you see? You can't see. Now you can. Now if I drop the board in, I can see I've got a little issue in that the on standby off switch is very close to this point here. Shall I zoom you in? You see that? Not a lot of space there. Now when this board is properly down on the standoff like that, we do actually have some clearance there, but it's something I need to something I need to keep in mind, especially when I'm doing my wire runs and things, as to where everything's going to go, because I've got 2 high voltage wires to come into this point. So and this side of the switch is the mains side, so I haven't really given myself a lot of clearance there. Now you might think that that is an issue, but the legal minimum is 0.8 of a millimetre. So if I get my feeler gauge, which is 32 thousandths of an inch, here it is, I've got loads of room. All right, and that's up to 2 kilovolts, so we're fine, absolutely fine. Yeah, all right, so that's where we are. That's the good progress on the Trainwreck build for now. As I said, the next video will be chassis wiring, so sorting out the transformer wires, mains wiring, bits and pieces like that, and then we'll move on to board wiring. We need to do the pots along the front. I'm going to use a bus bar along the front, and I'll show you the grounding scheme for that. And yeah, that's about it really. So thank you very much for watching. I'm sorry it's been a long time since part 2, which was back in, oh, when was it? It was December, wasn't it? I think it was Christmas Eve, I think. Anyway, progress on the Trainwreck. I've just realised something. I've made a massive mistake. Okay, a minor mistake. I forgot to drill the bright switch hole for the 3-position bright switch, which is going to sit roughly there. Oopsie daisy. Right, so I need to get that done. I'm going to remove this pot just so we don't get any swarf inside it as I drill that hole. But I'll do that off camera. But yeah, so I need to put that there. I haven't decided yet and maybe I should do. I think I'm going to use cliff jacks on this build rather than switchcraft style. So I might just need to enlarge the whole of this up to a cliff style, which will then might affect where this switch goes. So that's just another thing I need to work out. But this is prototyping. This is what it's all about. But there you go. Train wreck.